Howdy y'all, welcome back. We are back again to play Life Beginnings and Always, Derek's Road. And last time we went and played through all the scenes, all the moments in the main Our Life Beginnings and Always DLC, including the DLC stuff. The main DLC stuff, and with all the ones that have Derek in it. And now we're gonna go and play the ones that come from Derek's DLC specifically. So I'm excited to see the new content that we get. So let us load, and here we go. We'll just go from left to right. Responsible. The pool of Derek's condo complex was a perfect setting for late morning outing. It was early enough that the day hadn't yet reached its hottest. The air still held the crispness of the morning, despite its pleasantness. Only you and Derek were there. I didn't read that right. It was early enough that the day hadn't yet reached its hottest. The air still held the crispness of the morning. Okay. Despite its pleasantness, only you and Derek were there. Okay. Of course, given the location of the ocean, maybe everyone else who felt like waterside fun was at the beach. You usually were. The warm roughness of tiles felt odd on your bare feet as you walked further into the pool area. There was no sand to squish between your toes or sharp shells to avoid. You surveyed the area while Derek finished putting his stuff away on the chair. The chlorine was sharp in your senses, and the entire space was so orderly. Yeah, that is also an interesting experience. You live by the beach. You get to go by the water side anytime you want to, the natural water, and now you have this artificial pool. That must be an interesting experience. Oh, I'm just looking at my camera to make sure that it fits. Okay. Lounge chairs sat in neat rows, umbrellas spaced out uniformly. The depth of the pool was marked out in a clear text along the sides. Every single element was intentionally and expertly crafted to be convenient for its human visitors. It was extremely different from the wild mistress of the sea. The wild mistress? How old are we supposed to be? That's quite the vocabulary that we have. I guess we read a lot of books, I guess. You like the placid pools more. You like the sandy beach with rolling waves way more. You like the pool and the beach about the same. You are a fan of this pool or the beach. I haven't been to the beach that much. But I guess I would say I like the beach more. The pool was too tame, like it was some kind of big bathtub, and the chemical smell was off-putting. Beaches had much more than just water. What were the hidden treasures? The wide open space and vast horizon. Pools had made sense when the ocean was a million miles away, but you didn't really have a use for it when the beach basically being in your backyard. This had been Derek's plan. He let you know about it ahead of time, so you'd be dressed for the occasion. You wore a one-piece swimsuit. You wore a two-piece swimsuit. You wore swim trunks. You wore a wetsuit. I wore swim trunks. And A t-shirt. I'm usually that type of person. Your swimming gear was familiar even if the pool wasn't. You felt prepared. Derek bounded up to you in his own swim trunks, fragrantly ignoring the no running signs and enthusiasm. Oh, look at him. So cute. Watch, I'm gonna do a cannonball. As soon as he knew he had your attention, he took off to the beach, to the deep end of the pool. He built up speed and then leapt into the water. His curl-up body created a huge splash on impact. You laughed, you applauded, you smiled, you gasped, you dashed away from the flying water, you cheered. Applaud. You had to appreciate his talent and showmanship. Had he practiced on how to achieve the maximum splash, such a show deserved a clap. He stayed on the water for a while longer. He touched the pool's bottom before he kicked himself back upward. When Derek's head popped out of the water, he swam to the edge of the pool and propped himself up with a grin. He watched you expectantly. You jumped in the pool. You walked over to the steps of the pool to get in. You sat on the edge and dipped your feet in. You plopped yourself onto the nearest lounge chair. Yeah, I'm the type of person to sit on. I could do both of these, to be honest. But, well, does this mean that I'm just gonna sit down on the edge and just dip my feet? I thought this meant like I'm gonna test the water. I'm gonna go walk to the steps. I wanna get in. Okay, so I do dip before I step. You dipped a toe in the water first. It was cold, but not horribly so. You descended into the pool, letting yourself adjust to the temperature, and then made your way over to Derek. He slipped underwater once more to meet you halfway. As you enjoyed the moment, your thoughts fell back to how you got here. Last night, Derek had called with a different sort of request. He remembered that his voice had been a mix of nerves and hope. He had a favor to ask, very unexpected for him. Derek's mom needed him to watch his little brothers in the afternoon. It wasn't anything out of the ordinary, but that was part of his problem. Lately, he had feared that his sports skills weren't as sharp as he wanted them to be. He hadn't been able to practice soccer or football without the distraction to keep an eye on his brothers. His idea to fix this had been to ask for your help in watching the kids. If you agreed to go to the park with him and his brothers, then you could manage his brothers while he had a chance to focus on practice. That's how he explained it. You said yes, and your moms had been more than happy to let you spend the day playing support for Derek. They said it would be a good opportunity to take on some more responsibility. To sweeten the deal, Derek suggested that you come by early so that you could hit the pool. Nicholas would be sleeping in, and Jorge would spend some one-on-one time with Mrs. Suarez. So far, the plan had worked out. Ma dropped you off about 15 minutes ago, and both Derek's brothers were fully occupied. Mrs. Suarez and Jorge were back in the condo, putting together an 800-piece puzzle on the kitchen counter, while I'm saying Nicholas, but they had an accent on the last A, right? So Nicolas snoozed on the couch. He had some time to kick back before the moment came to be in charge of small children. A sloshing sound pulled you back to the present. Derek had climbed out of the pool. I want to jump in again. Want to join? Yeah, let's go. No, I'm going to sunbathe. I'd rather just watch. Nope, I want to swim some laps. Fine, I'll join you. You copied Derek's exit from the pool. It took arm strength and caution not to scrape yourself on the texture of the concrete. Once on solid ground, you reversed away from the edge to give yourself enough space for a good jump. Poised to go, you and Derek made eye contact. He leaned forward, balanced on the balls of his feet. I've already done one. It's your turn. You did a belly flop. You backflipped into the pool. You offered your hand to Derek so you could jump in at the same time. You simply jumped in. You showed him your cannonball. You walked off the edge into the water. You cartwheeled into the pool. Wow, it's a lot of stuff. I would probably just walk into the water or jump into the water. It was nothing fancy, but the good old classic pool jumps. You ran, pushed off the edge, and plunged into the water. You managed to splash Derek on the way down. Whoa! Whoa. You stretched out and reached up towards the surface, parting your arms to paddle over to dry ground. Derek was laughing boisterously. It was his turn next. By the curve of his grin and the lift of his chin, I love how that rhymes, he looked to be in a mood to impress. His eyebrows drew together in a deep furrow as he considered his launch. Derek took a few bounding steps to the edge, jumped up, and tucked his body in. Unlike his previous cannonball, the energy went into a spin, and he flipped, making a full rotation before he crashed through the surface. The water droplets from the splash dazzled you as they exploded out from its impact. He swam under the water and only came back to the surface after he reached the wall of the pool. He snaked his hands up to the top of the tiles and pushed himself up so that his hips were even with the edge. He twisted and practically rolled out of the pool from there. You're up! Okay. I mean, I don't know if I would have gained any more confidence to do anything more extravagant. But let's try cannonball, I guess. You backed up a little more to give yourself more space before going for it. You kept at your feet, run into the edge, and leapt. Curved into a ball, falling quickly, the air brushed past you, and then you were sinking towards the bottom of the pool. You kept switching back and forth, trading off between silly jumps and then more impressive tricks. From watching Derek's well-practiced dives to performing your own jumps, there was never a boring second. After several leaps, Derek called a break time. He took a breather at the backstairs of the pool. He waited for your strained heart rate to even out from all exertion. After a pause of silence, Derek spoke up. He pulled his fist to his cheek in thought, squishing his face slightly. Hey, I probably should have asked before, but have you ever babysat somebody before? No. Is that bad? No, but how hard could watching a couple kids be? Yeah, sometimes I babysit for one of my mom's friends. Does babysitting a dog count? You nodded yes. You shook your head no. I've never really babysat. I mean, my siblings are the middle one is like a little over a year younger than me. The youngest is 3 years younger than me. So not really that much younger. I've been the eldest, watching over them. But not really other children, so I'll just say no. As the youngest at your house, you were more used to others watching you. You hadn't had the opportunity to be responsible for little kids. Did most other people have babysitting experience by your age? Did he think you were inadequate? He chuckled at your apparent worry. It's not bad. It's not like I'm gonna leave. It's not like I'm leaving you totally alone with them. I'll be right there if anything goes down. Thanks. You were eager to take on the job. You felt nervous about being in charge. You were curious to see how the experience would go. You were prepared for it to be prepared. But you would do it anyway for Derek. You didn't know how to feel yet. Oh, I forgot this is step 2, by the way, not step 1. Okay, so of course we would have a more I was thinking about how I said like, oh, the vocabulary that we have. This is step 2. We're in middle school right now. That's probably me. This wouldn't rank in your top 10 days of summer vacation, but Derek was worth some hassle. After that interlude, you both continued to enjoy yourselves and your freedom until a little beeping alarm went off. That's time! He made his way to the lounge chair with his stuff and dug out a small portable clock. It buzzed until he found the start button. Derek checked the time and narrowed his eyes at the glowing red numbers. He shot you a thumbs up. Oops, that's not what to do. Okay. Up. You helped him gather the towels, grab the rest of the stuff, and then tried to drip as little as possible while rushing up the halls of the complex. When you reached his apartment, he dumped everything in his arms on the ground and scrambled to find his key. Just give me a second. I don't want to knock or anything in case Nicholas is still asleep. Nicholas is still asleep. He finally spied his soccer ball keychain and snatched up his keys from where they were tangled in his towel. He inserted the key into the lock and both of you shuffled inside the Suarez home. 3 heads swiveled to face the 2 of you, gazes being drawn to the bundles of neon towels coming in. Mrs. Suarez and Jorge were sitting on the bar stools while Nicolas perched on the counter itself with an excited grin. They were working on a puzzle. On your left, Derek leaned closer and spoke under his breath. He's awake. I don't know, can y'all hear his voice? It's kind of loud. Hold on, let me change. Oops, no. Let me change the configurations. Also, I just realized y'all can't hear nothing because I didn't unmute the what's-my-jiggle. Oops. Quick as a blank. Nicolas, also, can y'all hear anything? Okay, I've turned the volume up a little bit more. Quick as a blank, Nicolas scrambled on his hands and feet and zipped across the black marble of the counter. Tiny cardboard puzzle pieces scattered. Nicolas, the puzzle! Despite Jorge's frustration, the little whirlwind didn't seem to hear. He was on a mission to reach his bigger brother, not even stopping when he hit the end of the counter. Nicolas stumbled off the edge and Derek instinctively moved forward with a gasp, dropping all his pool stuff except for the towel wrapped around him. Mrs. Suarez caught Nicolas with her forearms, hooking under his chest, snatching him from midair. Oof! She hugged the son, holding him securely against her body. A chorus of relieved sighs filled the room. Nicolas still paid no mind to his trail of disasters and began to squirm. He just wanted down already. Derek took another few steps forward, making his way over to the scene. Mrs. Suarez carefully held Nicolas out, her hands under his armpits, and safely set him down on his feet. Nicolas immediately wrapped his arms around Derek's legs. Derek chuckled while tugging up at his towel so Nicolas wouldn't pull it off. Hold on, Nico, you're gonna get wet. Nicolas giggled mischievously and snuggled closer. Derek snuck a quick peek over his shoulder back at you and shrugged. Just as warned, Nicolas had a damp splotch on his shirt. Hi, everybody. You told Nicolas he'd warned you. You asked Jorge if his puzzle was alright. Nicolas, I'm here too, you know. You waited beside Derek quietly. That's probably how I act. I'll just wait. Nicolas continued to hold on to Derek, and you wondered how long he'd hang on like a little koala. Mrs. Suarez's tone was warm with a certain amount of humor to it. She rubbed her hands together and stood up. Derek and Pascal are in charge now. Make sure you listen to them. Jorge sourly picked at the puzzle pieces, but gave a grumbled noise to signify that he had heard. I'm going off to my appointment. She went to gather some things, officially putting you and Derek in charge, but there wasn't 1 second to settle into your new position. We're gonna go swimming? Nicholas looked up and stared with huge shining eyes. Derek reflexively stiffened. How could he escape the puppy dog look? Derek's eyebrows creased, a small sign of nerves compared to the smooth, placating sound of his voice. No, even better. He leaned down and lowered his voice like he was about to share a secret. We're going to the park. Nicholas instantly frowned. He wasn't convinced by Derek's act. He grabbed at Derek's towel. You were swimming. Yeah, but I'm not anymore. I'm going to the park, and you can come with me. The littlest Suarez whined and stomped his foot. His hands balled up around the neon fabric harshly enough he almost took the towel from Derek. Excuse me? Nicolas, calm down. I want to go to the pool. I want to see Pascal's swimsuit. A what? I was like, huh? Sherman said the darndest things. And Derek's jaw dropped. Neither of you were prepared for that one. Did you hear Nicolas right? You looked down at yourself, currently wrapped in a bright fuzzy towel. You switched your gaze to Derek's younger brother, your brain trying to make sense of what was happening. Why would you want that? Why does Nicolas want anything? Jorge rolled his eyes and continued mumbling into the corner. It was obvious to him, and he couldn't believe the rest of you were taking so long to catch up. Because Derek does, hello? They're just exposing each other. Because Derek does. You felt stunned. You couldn't help feeling amused. You suddenly felt extremely bashful. You only felt more confused. You didn't know what to feel about that. I'd probably be bashful. Derek narrowed his eyes and whispered harshly. Nicolas, Jorge, you're going to put me into an early grave. He took a deep breath and stared at the ceiling. It took him a moment to face you. His face was firm for someone at his level of embarrassment. Okay. Okay, Derek, okay. I don't know about that, but I'll take you at your word. I must have said something about hoping you remember to bring your swimsuit. I was excited for us to be able to swim, so I did want you to have one. I'm tired. Nicholas doesn't actually want to see you in a swimsuit. He doesn't even know why he wants that. He's just saying stuff. You scratch the back of your neck as you focus on anything other than Derek or his family. The apartment has some nice plants. Plastic, not plastic, and certainly not awkward plants. He took another look at Nicolas. He had crossed his arms high on his chest and squished his neck down far enough to rest his chin on his wrist. I want to go swimming. His pout intensified when he said it again. He was a very angry little baby. Derek tilted back on his heels, once again driven to look at the ceiling by the strain of this kid. You glanced up there yourself without thinking about it. It was a calm white color with a few light fixtures. When you squinted, you noticed something smaller and green. It appeared to be one of those sticky hand things for kids. What is it? Was it another present from the youngest Juarez? Yeah, that reminds me. I was with my cousins. This was years ago. I don't even know what grade I was supposed to be in, but we were really young. But I was with my cousins, my siblings and my cousins. We were all together, and in their living room, the cousin living room, we had thrown up like this. I think it was one of those sticky hand toys. We'd thrown it up all the way to the ceiling, and it stuck there, and it was there for years and years. I had seen it fade and fade slowly over the years. You could see like a pink or red outline just embedded into the white ceiling on top. I think it was removed. I don't know if it was naturally removed, or if it was like removed specifically, like it was cleaned up. Oh yeah, but that takes me back. Oh my gosh. You tuned back to Derek. He appeared to have made a decision. All right, I promise you we can go swimming too, but only after the park. We'll go to the pool as soon as we come back. With the promise officially made, Nicolas lit up. He snatched one of Derek's hands. We gotta get to the parks so I can swim. While Nicolas celebrated, Derek closed his eyes and some of the worried creases on his face smoothed out. Derek, there's lunch packed in the fridge. Dad will be back for dinner. Back before dinner. Gotcha, Mom. Gotcha. Thanks, Mom. Mrs. Suarez waved and collected the last of her things, her purse off of the side table. She ruffled Jorge's hair on her way out. You and Derek were alone with the kids. We should really stop leaving puddles everywhere. He gestured at the top drops of water pooling at his feet. Good idea. You and Derek took turns changing. You went first while you could faintly hear Derek impressing on the brothers to listen to you too. He must have convinced them to behave for now, as neither Jorge nor Nicolas acted up when Derek took his turn drying off and clothing himself. Can you get our lunch from the fridge? I'm gonna pack my gear. No problem. You walked casually to the kitchen. Jorge hadn't moved from his bar stool even once since you gotten back. Meanwhile, Nicolas followed Derek like a possessed shadow that was even more energetic than the original. He zipped around, occasionally trying to place things in Derek's backpack for him. So far, Derek had said no to the rubber duck, but had agreed to bring an extra pair of socks that Nicolas had determined were absolutely necessary. Got everything. Derek returned with a backpack in one hand and Nicolas's small hand in the other. We're going, Jorge. Ready, Pascal? I'm pretty sure. He pushed away from the counter and finally hopped off his chair with enthusiasm a plank of wood. We're going! Jorge is like so done with everyone. Derek hid a smile at Nicolas's echo and ushered everyone outside. He locked the condo behind him and began to trip to the nearby park. The park for the Suarez boys was a big park for your family. The condo complex was only a short distance from the public outdoor recreational area your mom sometimes drove you to. It was still a beautiful day outside and only gotten a few degrees warmer from your morning swim. The field was bustling with other groups of people enjoying themselves. Derek led the way to a wide open part of the grass that no one else was using. He stopped in the middle of the field and turned 180 degrees to face the little boys behind him. He shrugged his backpack off his shoulders and dropped it to the ground. He kneeled down to root around inside it. Jorge and Nicolas waited in place for their brother. Nicolas gathered a few things in his arms before pushing off the ground with his knee to get up again. He held a football in his left hand and a soccer ball in his right. All right, Nicolas, Jorge. I've got to practice, but you can too. Which one do you want? Football. Real ball. You raise an eyebrow at these shouts. Derek leaned over to you and whispered a laugh. He means a soccer ball. It's real because it's actually ball shaped. Is that a problem? They want both. Derek simply grinned. I thought so. He taught Jorge the football first. Jorge caught it from out of the air with one hand and began to bounce it up and down his fingers, feeling the weight of it. Derek popped the soccer ball gently over to Nicolas, who watched his brother intently. Excuse me. Nicolas had to catch it with both hands. He wrapped his arms around the ball and hugged it to his chest. And with his brothers taken care of, Derek crouched again to reveal a third ball. He brought a second soccer ball Derek had prepared. He then sprung to his feet, another problem diverted. Jorge, Nicolas, you can use this half of the field. I'll use that half. Pascal can be your ref, so don't get too far from him, alright? Okay. Jorge tossed the football into the air, preoccupied. It spun in an arc downward. I'm gonna practice! Nicolas embraced his soccer ball tighter, pressing his cheek into it. He wondered how he'd practice with it when the equipment was about as big as his head. The child looked completely content with the world, but Derek's eyes narrowed. Once again, he shared some Nicolas info into your ear. Watch him. It's not over. He copies what I say, but it's not what he means. You snuck a peek at Nicolas. He appeared so innocent, clutching his ball and staring at a patch of clover in the grass, but you interacted with him enough to not question his potential for trouble. You make sure to keep an eye on the kid. I will. Pascal, you're a lifesaver. Derek held his soccer ball in both hands and cheered. Bye, bros. Bye. Derek put a smile as he picked up his bag, tucked his soccer ball under an arm, and jogged to his side of the field. He didn't have time to lose. You stood with the youngest Waters boys effectively turned loose. Jorge stared at you with uncertainty, while Nicolas's mischievous smirk could only make you guess what he was thinking. You weren't going to make Mr. and Mrs. Waters regret letting you come, and you especially weren't going to disappoint Derek. You were going to watch those boys. Time to be in charge. I'm going to play over there. He pointed vaguely at the opposite side of the field from Derek and trotted off to entertain himself. You let him go without argument. Jorge wasn't the problem child. When you saw him settle in, throwing his football and chasing it, you smiled. You don't need to manage Nicolas. You aimed your grin towards him, but instead of being in the clover patch, he was missing. Oh, goodness gracious. You snapped your head back and forth until you spotted him in a fumbling dash across the grass, struggling to keep a soccer ball from slipping out of his small arms. When Derek said watch him, he really, really meant it. Your first babysitting gig was started off with a bang. Nicolas, stop! You ran over without a word. You ran over and picked him up. Hey, come back here, young man. Hey. The kid kept scrambling through the field. Yelling louder didn't help. You had to physically... Hold on. Yeah, okay. You jogged over to him, and luckily his small legs made it easy to close the distance and then pass him. You planted yourself in front of his path. He didn't look up when he bumped right into your legs. Nicolas snickered. He tried to dash round you, so you had to shift to the left to block his progress. He then went right, and then you speedily sidestep. Soon you both were back and forth as though you were actually playing a game of soccer, and Nicolas was trying to get past you to score. The soccer ball tumbled from his arms. Then you kicked the ball back to him and suggested playing. Oh, hey, Nicolas, you're hanging out with me just like Derek does. And you were just totally overwhelmed. I guess we'll do this. Let's play. I'm gonna get it. He squealed at the idea. He chased the ball, determined to beat you to it, and wound up for the kick. He overshot the angle of his foot, and the ball bounced off awkwardly. Then you were the one after the soccer ball. It didn't go that far. You let Nicolas get to it so he could continue to gradually kick the ball across the field. He sent the strands of grass into the air along with the ball on his second go. Don, I'm gonna get you. Nicolas cackled while bumping the ball along. No, I'm gonna win. When you next got close to the soccer ball, he switched strategies. Nicolas grabbed it in his hand so he could simply run for it. That's not how soccer works. It's mine. You laughed off his blatant rule breaking and started running around after Nicolas directly. The only times your gaze strayed from the little Suarez was when you blinked or sent an occasional glance Jorge's way. Jorge continued to enjoy his time at the park without any need for assistance, so he spent most of your energy on the mischief maker. And after smoothing the initial bump of the afternoon, things evened out. At least, things were fine until the trial known as lunch arrived. It started with the reappearance of Derek. His presence sent Nicolas into hyperdrive. He bounced on the tips of his toes and waved both his hands frantically. Derek's back! He tackled his older brother and launched around Derek's left leg. Jorge, like half of the entire park, noticed the shout. He jogged over to see if any important updates were happening without him. Derek winked. Hey, bros. Hi, Pascal. Hope you were doing all right. As he spoke, he let his bag drop to the ground. He crouched over it and scrounged up the packed lunches. It's all good. Oh yeah, it's just great. I don't know how you do this all the time. You nodded. I'm having fun. You shrugged. Mm-hmm. Nice. I'm glad. Nicolas didn't tag me from behind even once. Derek set aside 3 paper bags in the grass. One in front of Nicolas, another next to Jorge, and the third went to you. Derek kept the 4th lunch inside his backpack. He only pulled a water bottle from it and closed the bag up. Okay, Nicolas. You gotta eat now with Pascal and Jorge. Nicolas clenched Derek's jeans more desperately as he whined. You're not gonna eat with me? Derek scratched the back of his head and gave a longing glance back to where he'd been practicing. Do you mind, Pascal? I was hoping to have more time to practice. He bit his lip, hope clear on his face. He had confidence that you could handle lunch alone. You should really eat lunch too. I'll handle it. Okay. Sure, good luck with your practice. He gave him an okay sign. You sighed. Okay. It'll be fine, I promise. Nicolas's whimpering never stopped being high-pitched background noise. Derek ruffled his hair. Hey, check this out. He picked up Nicolas's soccer ball and placed it on top of his own head. Nicolas's jaw dropped theatrically as Derek fully stood up while keeping the balance. Nicolas cheered and jumped up and down, still holding on to Derek's leg. Derek bent his knees and then popped up fast enough to launch the ball into the air. He caught it on his head again. That's actually very impressive. That's actually quite impressive. Nicolas let go of his brother to clap. Nicolas grinned at Nicolas grinned. Derek grinned at Nicolas, but his gaze flicked to you for a second. Derek. The show over, Derek inclined his head and let the soccer ball drop into his hands. He had it out to Nicolas. Make sure you eat a good lunch, okay? Make sure you eat a good lunch, okay? Then you can get back to practicing. Okay. Nicholas spoke into the soccer ball he colored to his face. He'd been starstruck enough that he couldn't disagree with anything his biggest brother said. Derek waved at you and Jorge before heading off to where he left his soccer ball, carrying only the water bottle with him. Jorge promptly took a seat in the grass by the lunch bags. Nicolas put the soccer ball on his head. It immediately rolled off. He just tried again. He reached over to the lunches. Each bag had a clearly written name in black marker ink. Jorge collected his bag. You had yours, and you attempted to give the last one to its proper owner. But Nicolas showed zero interest in the bag. You imagined that he would have been more interested in Derek's lunch bag, even though they probably had the same meals. Jorge scoffed, knowing his brother was going to be difficult again. He took a sandwich from his bag. From looks alone, you guessed it was sliced deli turkey, a pale-colored cheese, and some veggies. With Nicolas clearly busy, you took a sandwich out for him. The sandwich was ham and some sort of orangey cheese, cheddar almost certainly. You offered this food directly to Nicolas and he still didn't bite. He wanted to play. How about I help you eat while you practice? How does that work? Nicolas, if you want to play, then you have to eat. If you eat, I'll hold the ball on your head for you, deal? Panic, you sent an SOS glance to Jorge. You have to eat. I don't want to take the ball, but I will if you keep using it as a distraction. That's probably how I'd say talk. No! He stomped his foot, raising the eyebrow. You crossed your arms and tried to look as commanding as you could. It's mine! Your food is also yours, so you should eat it. I will! With a huff, Nicolas held the ball behind his back with one hand and snatched the sandwich from you with the other. He took a few steps and plopped down on the grass. The ball rolled towards the space between you both, but you were more concerned about his lunch. Nicolas crossed a leg under him, and his frustration dissipated almost instantly with the first bite. That was one sibling fed and one more to go. You glanced over at Jorge and saw that he was already partway through eating his lunch. Satisfied, you finally decided it was safe to pick up your own lunch. Finishing the last corner of your square-shaped meal, you wondered if Mrs. Suarez had talked to one of your moms beforehand about lunch. The sandwich was made how you would have had it at home. She was either prepared or very lucky, but considering what her oldest son was like, you were guessing that luck had nothing to do with it. Along with the sandwiches, there were also a bag of carrots, celery, and a few cookies. Between the three of you, it wasn't long before all the snacks were gone. With none left to nibble on, Nicolas yawned and curled up in the grass, cuddling the soccer ball against his chest. Jorge stood up, watching his little brother fall asleep. Once he was certain that Nicolas was down for the count, he started cleaning up the trash. How responsible are you, Jorge? You admire the maturity he showed for his age. It wasn't just Derek who had that streak after all. He helped gather the trash while musing about the Suarez brothers. Derek was the oldest and who his parents relied on, while Nicolas was the baby of the family. And for a little kid, he was supposed to be reckoned with. Jorge was the one stuck in the middle. Seriously, thank you for helping me with this. Thank you for being such a good kid to babysit. Hey, I saw your football throws earlier. They were really good. I like getting the chance to spend time together. You gave him an encouraging smile. I don't want to choose like this one, but I just want to see how they react. I knew he would not like that. I knew he would not like that at all. Jorge stopped. I just want to see what happens. Jorge stopped what he was doing and stared at you. Surprise twisted into a sour look when the words kid and babysit landed. Oh, okay. He doesn't tell me off. Oh, he's so cute. He's so cute. Okay, that's not what I'm gonna say though. Thank you. Jorge almost dropped his plastic baggies and used napkins he was collecting between his fingers, but he managed to regain hold of everything before it fell. He didn't know how to respond to your gratitude, and the longer he stood there just staring stood there staring at you, the more his blush darkened. Embarrassed, he quickly pivoted back to what he was doing before. You left the subject there, but he thought he deserved more praise. The park suddenly felt empty with Nicolas asleep. He took up a lot of space despite his tiny size. Chuckling to yourself, you found a comfortable spot on the grass and scanned the area for Derek. You eventually caught sight of him running in the distance. Even from here, you could tell that Derek was persistent about his practice. He went back and forth, repeating the same set of moves, reassessing and refining his form every time. Though it wasn't long before he paused to wipe his brow with the black wristband. Derek happened to glance your way at that moment and realized they had an audience of one. He gave a huge wave with both hands that required he crossed both his arms over his head. Excuse me. I'm like, what does that mean? But oh, he's doing like that. I'm like, how? Okay, I see. Before you knew it, Derek's strides were bringing him back over to you and his brothers. That's it. I'm gonna be done with practice. I'm back. Welcome back. Thanks for watching, Jorge and Nicolas. I didn't mean for it to be so long. Hey, I finally got to be a big sibling. I think I feel like an old child parent now. It's okay, I'm happy I can help you out. You owe me one. You nodded promptly. It's okay. The sincerity in your voice had Derek bashfully keeping his eyes on his shoes instead. I'll probably end up saying it again, but thanks, Pascal. You're a lifesaver. Next, he shifted his attention over to his brothers. Jorge gave a little wave. He had been waiting impatiently for his big brother to wrap up this conversation with you. We're going back. Jorge simply got up, not needing any more guidance, while Derek kneeled in the grass and nudged Nicolas out of dreamland. No, y'all should have picked him up and carried him so he would be asleep and then wouldn't care about going to the pool no more. A single eye crack opened at first, and then they both popped wide open when he realized who was with him. Derek! Nicolas sprang off the ground, wrapping his arms around his big brother like a vice grip and nuzzled into his chest. Derek gave Nicolas's head a single pat. Practice was good today. Let's go home. Nicolas's hushed voice echoing his brother's, put a warm smile on your face. Surveying the area, you made sure that none could be accidentally left behind. Then you breathed a sigh of relief. You made it through your first time solo babysitting. Although Derek was technically standing nearby the whole time, so it wasn't completely solo, but you weren't bothered by that. Derek trusted you with his siblings, and they were both still in one piece. With your leadership, no one got lost, injured, swallowed something they shouldn't have, or even declared that they hated you for eternity. So in your book, you'd say it went fairly well. The 15-minute walk back from the park passed by pleasantly. The late afternoon sun fell behind you, and your shadow soon stretched across the sidewalk. You wiggled your fingers and then exaggerated your hand's movement in order to watch the shadow change. Meanwhile, next to you, Derek was finally eating his lunch. Although he had to eat his sandwich with the hand Nicolas wasn't clasping tightly onto. Jorge entertained himself with the football he still carried. He periodically tossed it up into the air and caught it again. Could easily imagine how the three of them had made this trip beforehand with only the three of them. But you didn't feel out of place strolling alongside the group. It felt natural. Beeman, you felt your gaze settling onto Derek again. You knew without a doubt that the way you felt was because of him. He was so good at making you feel welcome. In time, you made it safely back to Derek, and Derek dropped his bag on the floor with a quiet sigh of relief. Inner hope he had to take things easy for a second immediately evaporated. Oh my gosh, Nicolas. Nicolas's joy was palpable, parroting back Derek's promise from earlier in the day. As the words dawned on him, Derek closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Yup, we are. Get ready. And that was all approval Nicolas and Jorge needed. They both dashed off to their shared bedroom to get changed. Derek sluggishly opened his eyes, but his tiredness softened when he looked at you. Practice is done. If you want to stay up here until your moms come back with you, that's cool. Derek gave a partial shrug and then ran a hand through his hair shyly. We don't have to go swimming again. But I want to hang out with you. I've been having fun. I'm not mad about being here. What? You promised to go to the... You promised we get to go back to the pool again. I'm not going to let you be outdone by Jorge and Nicolas. I don't want to be here by myself. You shook your head at the terrible idea of staying behind. Okay, so we have no choice. We have to go with him. I don't want to be in here by myself. That's funny. Okay. Derek laughed awkwardly at that. That's a good point. It wasn't much longer before the younger kids came running out to rejoin you and Derek. They both wore their neon-colored swimsuits and had towels wrapped around their shoulders. Aw. Oh, look at his little life jacket. It's so cute. Nice job. You even remember your floaty vest, Nicolas. Derek kneeled down to make sure the safe device was properly secured. Nicolas stood tall with his chest out proudly. He didn't fear the scrutinization. I needed straps for him. Perfect. Thanks. Jorge brightened just as his younger brother had. Standing back up. Oh, Derek. Not Derek. Oh, Jorge. Derek shifted attention to you. Same quick change strategy from earlier? Yeah. You darted off to get changed first. Derek nodded seriously when you returned to take over for him. He reemerged a couple minutes later and diligently went over to the counter to write something down. Curious, you inched closer. Just gotta leave a note so Dad knows where we are. Then we can go. Oh, sounds good. Everything was squared away, as Derek was always sure to do, and the four of you marched right back out of the apartment for another excursion. By the time the distinct spell of chlorine tickled your nose, the sun had fallen low into the sky. You circled around some nearby lounge chairs and deemed them capable of keeping your things safe. Inspecting the gleam of water, you noticed that Jorge and Nicolas hadn't moved towards the pool yet. Both of the little boys were watching Derek like hawks. You had picked up enough this afternoon to know it was Jorge. To know it was because Jorge didn't want to do anything without permission, and Nicolas didn't want to do anything Derek wasn't doing. He already kind of spoke, but here I go. And Derek himself knew it too. He didn't keep them waiting. Derek offered his brothers an encouraging wave and strode over to the pool. You followed him to the water. You ran to beat him in. You remained nice and dry on solid land. Let us follow him to the water. Wait for me. Derek paused at the pool's edge and glanced over his shoulder. He beamed at you. All right. On 3. 1, 2, 3. You simultaneously leapt into the pool, making a huge splash. After a few seconds, you made your way to the surface to take a breath. Derek, meanwhile, stayed under. Other Suarez sons followed. Jorge jumped in without hesitation, but Nicolas sped right to the edge, only to come to an abrupt stop. His toes curled around the edge of the pool, and his lips were pressed into a tight frown. Nicolas tipped his head and stared down at the water, clenching his hands together. He was scared to jump. Nicolas would rather the pool come to the rest of the way to him, but it wasn't being a good sport. Derek and Jorge popped out of the water with matching wide grins and droplets clinging to the tips of their hair. Neither was surprised that they were missing their baby brother. All right. That was awesome. Nicholas's cry for help came out in a tiny, impatient squeak. He began wiggling in place. Derek chuckled and swam over to a shallower spot. The 6-year-old followed closely, nodding along in the edge. When his feet touched the pool's solid bottom, Derek stood up. He kindly held his arms toward his brother. Come on, Nico. The water's fine. Trusting him completely, Nicolas let go of his fear. He took a step over to the side and walked into his favorite person's hold. Derek embraced Nicolas as he dropped against his chest. Then Derek slowly lowered him closer to the water before he completely let his brother go. Nicolas bobbed under the small splash and broke out again in an instant like a buoy. He was busting at the seams with excitement. Nicolas made the most of his new floating freedom by dog paddling around the shallow end. Checking on Jorge, you noticed that he was sticking to the center of the pool. He bounced himself from the floor to the surface for air and then pushed back down to do it all over again. He leapt all around in a circle. Derek rested an arm across the pool's edge and took a moment to watch his brothers too. You swam over to Derek and settled against the wall with him. You closed your eyes and sighed. The water's temperature was pleasantly warm against the cool and evening air. Derek kept his main focus on his family, though he spared a moment to tilt his head in your direction. A few beads of water trailed from his hairline down the side of his jaw. Babysitting went as well as you thought, huh? Yeah, I think it went pretty well. My brothers are fun. Some of the time. He chuckled at his own joke and ran a damp hand down his face to try to get at least some of the water off. The final rays of sunlight cast a warm glow on his skin, and the pool sparkled as he finally turned his attention directly towards you. Derek's mouth turned to his usual wonderful smile. I love that cute, it's not like a buck tooth, but like the cute teeth. It's so fun. I don't know what I'd do without them. I think they're great. You sound like a proud dad. Well, Jorge is good, but Nicolas is trouble with a capital T. I think Nicolas is way cuter than all other Jorges. I can't read. Suarez is. You nodded. You shrugged. It's like a proud dad. He smirked at your teasing, but it quickly lost his force as his cheeks grew pink. Derek hid his face in his hands. I don't even want to think about being a real parent right now. Being the oldest kid is enough for me. Shaking his head, he kept his brothers in sight. The affection returned to his expression. I am proud of them, though. Jorge and Nicolas remained engrossed with their own watery adventures while you and Derek kept track of them. You were mid-conversation when the sound of footsteps echoed off the walls surrounding the pool. Derek shot an arm out of the water and waved at the newcomer. Dad! Dad! Dad? All this while his boys eagerly paddled over to the end of the pool where their father stood. They moved together in the water with their heads beside each other and their legs kicked out behind them like a pile of sea pups. Jorge? Mr. Suarez's voice was sweet as he observed his children's happy faces. Eventually, he spotted you as well and tucked his fingers into the edge of his vest with vigor. Oh, it was a pool party today. You know a party should have proper food. Let's order pizza for dinner tonight. Yeah. Laughing with excitement, Nicolas started smacking the palms of his hands against the water surface, making several bursts and splashes. Jorge flicked the droplets from the tips of his fingers at Nicolas in retaliation. Chuckling over the scene, Mr. Suarez brought a hand up and held onto his chin. He scratched at his beard with his thumb. Half cheese, half pepperoni for the first, correct? Yes! Pepperoni! Nicolas threw both his arms in the air as he cheered. Mr. Suarez nodded and, pleased his littlest ones still had predictable tastes. Okay, then meat and veggies supreme for Irene and I on the second. He settled his gaze on Derek and you for the final decision. Suggestions for what the final half should be? Pascal, you pick. You floated over closer to Derek as you thought about it. Well, usually I would get pineapple, but they don't have pineapple as an option as itself. They only have Hawaiian, but Hawaiian has all types of other stuff I don't usually eat on it. So I'll just say more cheese. Just more cheese, please. Can I get some cheese, please? Derek gave you a big thumbs up for that. In full, 1 cheese pizza and 1 half Supremo and half pepperoni. Excuse me. Thank you, children. I'll put the order in now, and I'll come back to let you know when it's ready. But until then, continue to play. Thanks, Dad. Bye. Dad? Bye, Mrs. Suarez. Mr. Suarez closed the pool gate behind him, leaving you kids to your fun. In Mr. Suarez's absence, Derek took charge again. All right, you heard it. Dad's ordering pizza, so he'll be here in like 30 minutes. So think fast. What's the last thing you want to do before we leave the pool? Nicolas furrowed his brow, thinking as hard as he could. He scrunched his face together in frustration when nothing came to mind. Meanwhile, Jorge put a hand to his chin and tilted his head to the side. He stared up and off into space as he considered the question. You left it open to the younger kids to decide. I'll do that. Narrowing your gaze, you wondered who would speak up first. You crossed your arms and sat tight. The boys will have to come up with their own answers. We could make a whirlpool. Nicolas' pupils grew huge with anticipation. Yeah! Nicolas giggled as Derek hooked his fingers around the vest straps. Derek started moving forward, dragging his little brother along for the ride. Jorge pumped his arms and excitedly jogged against the resistance of the water. You darted into a little conga line to get the water going even faster. Around and around you all went, from corner to corner of the Chalet Inn. I love this. It's kind of like poetic. Around and around you all went, from corner to corner to the Chalet Inn. It wasn't long before it was enough motion to start a current. Nicolas was still loudly squealing when Derek let him go so he could float along the moving water like a man on a mission. Jorge hopped out of the pool and barreled into the nearby pool shed. He reemerged with a pool noodle victoriously held in his fist. Jorge jumped back into the pool with it between his legs. He surfaced and drifted along, riding the pool noodle like a cowboy riding a horse off into the sunset. You and Derek continue to push the water by running in circles to stop the whirlpool from dying out. Each time Derek lapped one of his brothers in the loop, he gave them a high five. The four of you thoroughly enjoyed your time in the pool. It flew by so fast that you were surprised when you spotted Mr. Suarez cruising down the water's edge once more. Dinner's here. Dinner's here. And even better, Mom's home. Well, his voice is not. Hold on. Dinner's here. And even better, Mom's home. Yeah. Yay! The youngest Suarez threw his wet confetti into the air. Even his dad wasn't safe from it. Mrs. Suarez took it in stride and wiped his glasses against his vest. Derek was out of breath, but being, let's go get some food. Yeah. Mrs. Suarez led the way to the apartment, and the four of you kids marched with an eager spring in your steps. Despite being wrapped in towels, you dripped water the whole way there. The savory smell of hot cheese and garlic crust was there to greet you when you arrived at the door. You could hear the musical words of Mrs. Suarez too. Welcome home. This sounds like Siri. Hi. Hi, Mom. Mom? Feeling a bit awkward and out of place, you gave a tiny wave. Mrs. Suarez didn't miss it, and her voice softened as she spoke to you first. Hello, Pascal. I hope you had a fun day. I hope you had fun today. I did. We had lots of fun. Mrs. Suarez then went over to the kitchen where the food was set on the counter. She popped the boxes open and delightedly glanced over at her husband. This was such a good idea. Thank you. Mrs. Suarez dipped his head into a tiny bow. He followed that by gesturing a hand towards the food. Come and get dinner. Youngest to oldest order. Despite the order given, it was no surprise that Jorge was the one who moved first. You figured Nicolas would wait for Derek, even if he didn't have to. Jorge tore off a paper towel from the roll and used it to grab a slice of plain cheese pizza. He hot-footed it back over to the entryway, standing there so he wouldn't bring water any further into the apartment. You can go next, Pascal. It'll be easier that way. The food smelled even better up close. You grab a slice of cheese. Well, this is what I asked for, right? You hurried back to the entryway and with your dinner. Derek went next, tiptoeing over with Nicolas at his heels. He grabbed a slice of pepperoni and passed it to Nicolas. Derek then grabbed a slice of pepperoni for himself, but instead of going to the entryway, he went to an open space on the floor. You curiously watched as Derek laid his towel on the floor and then sat on it, crossing his legs. Nicolas popped down on the towel right next to him and started on one of his pizza crust corners. Ugh! That is nasty. Who eats pizza like that? Who eats pizza like that? Also, I'm looking at my model. I realized that my model is like glitching for some reason. I don't know why it's like, hello? Goodness gracious. Okay. I see. It's better now. But anyway, I've seen people who say that they start on the crust. Who does that? You know, you always start at the tip. The vertex of the pizza. Just had to stay standing with Jorge. I'll stay with Jorge. You didn't mind eating on your feet, but you also didn't give yourself much time to think about it. Taking a big mouthful, you focus on filling your belly instead. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Suarez got their slices of pizza. They stood in the living room in between the spots their sons had taken. How did you spend your day while we were out? We did lots of things. In between taking big bites of pizza, the Suarez family started taking turns telling stories about their day. Nicolas recounted the events of the day with the most enthusiasm. Even though they were the same plot points from the brothers' stories and the ones you witnessed firsthand, from his perspective, the events were almost mythically amazing. Storytelling was hunger work, so the slices didn't last all that long at all. The food was chipped away piece by piece until everyone was stuffed. Nicolas lay down on the floor, limbs stretched out and still wrapped in his towel. He was completely tuckered out from the day. Mrs. Suarez plucked him off the floor and held him under one arm. Bath time. Come on, Junior. Junior? Is he a Jorge too? Nicolas accepted his fate and his arms hung limply down. Jorge crumpled up his paper towel into a ball and tossed it into the trash. He followed his dad. Gregorio. Oh, I guess that's his name. Thank you, Gregorio. Mrs. Suarez watched them go with a gentle affection in her gaze. She patted her husband's shoulder as he passed by and then strolled over to you and Derek. And thank you for a good day's work. I appreciate you both for taking care of Nicolas and Jorge today. Her cheeriness reminded you so much of Derek's. She pointed with her thumb over her shoulder. Dad and I will take it from here. Thanks, Mom. You can see the wave of relief wash over him as clearly as the actual water you had just swam in. I'll keep an ear out for the phone. Pamela says she called when they're on their way here to get Pascal. Okay. After that, Mrs. Suarez excused herself to go help Jorge and Nicolas ready for bedtime. When she disappeared down the hall, Derek leaned back on the palms of his hands. He lazily rolled his head in your direction. Oh, we can see what his room looked like. We can get dressed again. Then you wanna hang out in my room until your mom gets here? Yeah, let's do that. You can get changed first. He stretched his legs out on the floor while you stood up. You could feel a slight ache in your muscles from today's activities. It wasn't bad, given your all during your babysitting adventure. Gathering your things up in your arms, you left to get changed. It wasn't long before you and Derek went over to his room for some stimulus free time. Okay, let's look. You got a football, another football, a football trophy, soccer ball, volleyball, sports hat, some books, a soccer trophy. I had a trophy like that when I was young. Some other figurines. Okay. Derek opened his bedroom door and gestured for you to lead the way. You went in while he followed close behind, shutting the door once more. Your eyes widened as you scanned the small space. Usually you were outside when you hung out with Derek, so this is the first time you'd been inside his bedroom. Within reach of his neatly made bed was a bookshelf filled with novels. Various scattered soccer balls and footballs stuck out around the books and furniture. Things were arranged and organized with the same care Derek put into most things he did. If there was more time, you were sure there were tons more trinkets and treasures to spot here, like a game of I Spy. It wasn't big, but Derek made the most of a small piece of the world. Your room is cool. There are a lot of footballs and soccer balls in here. Are you sure you have enough soccer ball and footballs? You felt nervous being there. This is amazing. You quietly continued to look around. You have a lot of balls. You glanced at him curiously. Derek chewed at the inside of his cheek and gave you an over-exaggerated shrug. I like to be prepared. You saw how things went down at the park today. He put his hands on his hips and shot you a cheeky grin. You chuckled in anticipation of what he had to say next. And besides, I heard that you should have at least 2 backups of stuff that's important in your life. Trying how to suppress a laugh, your lips twitch. You held up 2 fingers for emphasis. 2 backups, huh? You definitely got that covered. Derek let out a big sigh and shook his head. He rubbed an eye with the palm of his hand. Honestly, it's just an easy gift my relatives go for when they don't know what else I might want. At least I'll never run out of stuff to practice with. But anyway, sorry I don't have any chairs in here. You can sit on my bed if you want. Thanks, I appreciate that. I'll sit on the edge of his mattress. After the busy day you had, it was without a doubt nice and relaxed and sun soft. Derek's expression brightened when you took him up on his offer. Derek crossed over to the foot of his bed and sat down on the end of it. His jaws stretched open with a huge yawn that he quickly covered with his hand. Good job, team. Phew, we're finally done. I need my own stretch. Hold on about the stretch. This is going on for like an hour and 20 minutes. That was a nice stretch. There was no missing the proud satisfaction burning in his green eyes, but you could also consequently see the places where he was wilting. Sometimes you kind of worried about how he threw himself wholeheartedly into things all the time. It was nice spending the day babysitting. How often do you babysit? Well, that's over. I hope I was at least helpful today. Derek, don't ask me to watch those kids again. You tease. You're not alone with his words. Yeah. He seemed quite pleased to have your support and your company. You couldn't help but wonder what else you could do to make things easier for him. Derek stretched an arm high in the air and yawned again. His eyelids drooped as he turned towards you. Gradually, the carefree warmth faded from his demeanor. His face fell into a quiet frown when his hands had returned to his lap. Oh, Derek. You don't have to do it again, Pascal. Whether it's a good time or a bad time, it's just a lot of time and you have your own things to deal with. Your brows bent at that. Tilting your head, you couldn't help but think how much of Derek's days went to his brothers. It definitely didn't seem to match how things were with your sister and you. But then, as if summoned by your thoughts about him, the bedroom door creaked open just enough to let out a giggling Nicholas slip in. He threw his hands into the air. I'm dressed! With a loud thud, the door swung fully open and Jorge marched in with an extremely annoyed scowl. He put his hands on his hips. Nicolas, we're playing in the living room, not Derek's room. Jorge reached for his younger brother, but Nicolas scurried up onto the bed. He warily peeked at Jorge from behind Derek's shoulder. Derek notably didn't say a single word, nor did he appear surprised about the intrusion at all. The only movement he made was a light pat on the mess of his hair on Nicolas' head like usual. What wasn't usual was a distant look on his face. He accepted the reality at hand, but didn't welcome it. Mr. and Mrs. Swallows crowded into the room next. Sorry, Derek, he slipped away in a flash. Come on, Nicolas. Let Derek and Pascal have some peace. The younger Swallow stubbornly clung onto Derek's arm. His cheeks puffed out angrily. Nicolas, go hang out with Mom and Dad. Don't you want to see them too? They missed you today. You can. You could also like flip that back onto me. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Don't you want to see Mom and Dad too? Come on, Derek. Nicolas loosened his grip as he shifted to get a better look at his big brother. Derek sighed spiritlessly. I do, but I have a friend over right now. I'll spend some time with Mom and Dad and you later. Nicolas bent forward and grasped Derek's pant leg. He brought out the big guns and stared at him with the most pitiful eyes of the match about. Nicolas, leave us alone. You know, Derek does what he's supposed to do. You could be like that now. You could be like that now, Nicholas. Don't be sad. It's been a happy day. Well, I'm not surprised this happened. You sank down, feeling awkward about the situation. You rubbed your eyes in frustration. You know, Derek. I mean, I usually like keep silent, but with kids, I feel like I'm inclined to try to give my 2 cents. All focus shifted over to you in surprise, but the one you were focused on was the youngest Suarez. Silently, he met your stare, and you could tell that he was mulling over your words. I know you can do it. For a second, you had a glimmer of hope that you could fix things with Derek, but as the moment passed, Nicolas still didn't budge from a spot. His grasp only tightened. Nicolas, we're reading a story right now. Nicolas angrily shook his head as she advanced across the room. She unapologetically peeled her smallest child off of Derek. The young boy let out a high-pitched whine for the entire extraction. Jorge frowned sympathetically over the confrontation, while Derek winced at the noise. When the deed was done, the middle son followed his mom out of the room. You can still hear Nicolas' piercing cries. He was carried away. Why is Nicolas like so attached to Derek? Like so attached. I don't know. Is this usual? Again, I have a younger sibling. The youngest is 3 years younger than me. He's not that young. She is not like that. I am very sorry about the interruption. Continue as you were. None of us were ever here. He gave the both of you an encouraging smile before carefully shutting the door again. It was finally silent. Derek kept an eye out until he honestly believed that there wouldn't immediately be another sibling disaster. When he deemed it safe, he let out a quick sigh and attempted to choke back a harsher groan. Derek, you get to see actually like him have his raw emotions. Derek flopped back against the mattress with another huff and stretched his arms out at his sides. His arms twitched and his fingers curled into fists. Derek. There's never any privacy here. How am I still having to deal with things, even after spending almost the whole day with them? You held your tongue, waiting patiently for him to get it all out. Just get it out, Derek. Derek muttered grievances under his breath with a harsh glare aimed at the ceiling for a good minute and screwed his mouth shut. I'm sorry, Derek. I think you've done a really good job with everything. It's definitely rough. And I thought Elizabeth could be difficult to deal with. At least your brothers don't think they're the boss like Elizabeth. You don't know what to say. I mean, I honestly wouldn't know what to say. It was a complicated situation that it was out of control, and no amount of wishing otherwise was going to change that. For now, you were just glad that you were there so you weren't alone. After a few more moments, you realized that he was checking to see if you were there. You still weren't sure how to comfort him, but you settled on a slight nod. You weren't going anywhere, and you hoped that he understood that. The tension seemed to lessen in his brow, and you took that as a positive sign. Evening his breath, Derek folded his arms across his chest and squeezed his eyelids shut. You could tell by the tension in his face that he was still bothered. He was thinking hard, searching for something. I can make this work. His low mumble was followed by a pause that had you intrigued. And then he jumped forward so that he was sitting upright again. The grin you were so used to seeing was back in full force. Oh, Derek. Again, we've been to the pool like 3 times or 2 times already. We're gonna go there a 3rd time. Pascal, want to go back to the pool? Nobody's gonna be there this late, and my bros are not gonna be able to leave the house. Okay, I see. We're just gonna go there and talk. I was like, again? We don't have to get in or even change clothes. I think it'd be kind of a nice. I think it'd just be a kind of. I think it'd just be a kind of nice place. No, I think it'd just be kind of a nice place to talk and that sort of thing. Avoiding your gaze, Derek nervously rubbed the back of his head. You could tell he was trying his hardest to be nonchalant, but he wasn't exactly succeeding. Good thinking. All right. Derek leapt up to his feet and turned, holding a hand out for you to take. Chuckling, you gripped his hand tightly. Chuckling, you got up on your own. How's he gonna respond if we just don't take his hand? Nothing? He doesn't respond anyway? Okay. Derek squeezed you back and helped you up to your feet. Let's go. The door slowly creaked open as Derek peeked out. Double checking that the coast was actually clear, he gave you a thumbs up. I don't see Nicholas. I think we're good. You turned his thumbs up, silently hoping that it wasn't the calm before the storm. Derek led you into the living room where you found his dad and Jorge sitting together on a couch. Hello. Mom is Nicholas in the other room, enraptured by another exciting session of story time. Good. Pascal and I were going to go down to the pool area to hang out. Is that okay? He chuckled, knowing exactly what Derek was trying to accomplish. Jorge was perfectly happy to be here with his dad, so he waved goodbye to you both. Don't keep Pascal out too late. Don't. Don't keep Pascal out too late. There you go. That's better. I won't. Thanks, Dad. Derek whispered with complete confidence. You gave your appreciation in an equal hushed tone. Thank you, Mr. Suarez. Last thing either you want was to alert the younger Suarez that anything fun was happening, while others knowledge. So you both silently slipped out of the apartment. Once you were free from the condo's walls, Derek's excitement was palpable. You picked up the pace and raced the pool gate. For the third time in a single day, you and Derek stepped foot onto the condo's private pool deck. But as soon as you realized you hadn't seen everything, it had to offer yet. Hey, Copy Flower, I'm doing well today. How are you? Thanks for coming in. Under the cover of night, the pool was completely aglow with light set to the bottom. The bright blue struck you as inviting breaths of steam drifted off the top of the water, whispering how warm it was. The closing space was clear of any other people, and it had been like that for a while considering the stillness of the pool. Not a single ripple would disrupt this awkward marine surface. Here you had peace and privacy. Derek was drawn to the water like a moth to a flame. I'm about to say, like, did he just get in his regular clothes? Okay. He wordlessly rolled up his jeans and tugged off his sneakers and socks, then dunked his feet right into the pool, up to the middle of his calf. He stretched and wiggled his bare toes into comfortable embrace of the heated pool on a summer night. You joined Derek at the edge. And you dipped in your feet as well. You removed your own shoes and let your feet soak into the pool. It was as pleasant as its sparkling appearance promised. The water had none of the slight chill that the air did. It was a perfect amount of heat. Derek wrapped both of his hands around the smooth tile edge and tilted back. One of his legs kicked up as his back drifted down like his upper and lower body were one side of a seesaw. He grinned playfully at you. So, what were we talking about? Well, he was saying that you liked having my help. That you liked having my help, and that, but it wasn't my job to watch your brothers, and I didn't have to do it again. Yeah. Yeah. You're not sick anymore? Now you feel better? Oh, that's good. I'm glad you feel better. I know it's like winter time now, so it's the season to get a whole bunch of illnesses and things like that, but that's good. I've been having a stuffy nose, blowing my nose, trying to get all the mucus out all day. It's been better this evening, but yesterday and today, I had to deal with that. He suddenly brought up his torso back up until he was hunched over the water. He stared down at it. All his lightheartedness had disappeared in an instant. Things were already kind of a bummer before it got interrupted. That sucks. There wasn't any heart in it, but Derek managed to chuckle. Sorry for making my problems your problems. He dug his fingers into the side of his hair, scratching at it in frustration. I don't even know what my problem is. They came into the room for 5 seconds. I'm so dramatic. Derek, that's not dramatic. And it wasn't the only thing that happened today. Nicholas is dramatic. You mild, you joked. You deal with a lot of problems. It annoyed me and I don't even live here. You leaned closer to show you were there to listen. Derek, you're not dramatic. Come on. Yeah. Derek crossed his arms tight and pushed them against the top of his legs. The blue water rippled around him as his legs moved against the pool wall, his heels pressed into it. The pressure that had only been on the inside was coming out. It's just that the thing is, Nicolas and Jorge need me all the time. And my parents need me because they need me. I want to let them down. I really don't. But it's hard. Every day is like I'm going to mess up and disappoint somebody. Oh. He bit his tongue and released his limbs from the locked positions they'd been stuck in. He couldn't scrub the furrow away from his brows. Derek, stop saying stuff like that. You have the right to talk about your problems and vent, you know. As long as you don't stay forever in this state. You have the right to vent no matter what your problems are. You know, just because other people might have more, severe, more harsh problems doesn't mean that your problems aren't problems. Forget it. Everyone has stuff to worry about. It's not just me. Mom has to take care of them way more than I do, and Dad works a job pretty much the entire day. I admire you. You don't have to brush yourself off. Your family's lucky to have you. So what if they have things to do? So what if they do things too? You still deserve to be happy. It's not fair for you to think like that. You place a supportive hand on the shoulder. You deserve to be happy. You don't know. He went silent, unmoved. Nicholas was the person who caused trouble, but somehow Derek made himself the bad guy. It was a setting, but Derek wasn't anywhere close to being grown up. Of course he couldn't be perfect, even though he acted like he thought he should be. Derek, remember when your dad first came to the pool and you, Jorge, and Nicolas were all so excited? You were just like your brothers. Even if you were in charge sometimes, you're still your parents' kid. You don't have to act like an adult, especially not with me. Finally, slowly and carefully, Derek dared to glance at you again. Thanks, Pascal, for saying all that. His shoulders squished inward to frame his lower head. He looked so much like a hopeful puppet that he could give even Nicholas a run for his money in the adorable face department. It really doesn't bother you that I complain, and sometimes hanging out with me means helping out the other two kids? For all the confidence Derek displayed, when push comes to shove, he was pretty insecure about himself and what you thought of him. Not at all. Complain away. As long as you don't mind dealing with Elizabeth when you visit me. That's right. Derek, I love hanging out with you no matter what. I'll babysit as many times as you need. You nodded seriously. No. Derek showed his full face to you. It was all lit up by the light shining through the water. His smile on his face was just as glittering. Well, I don't ever want to be a pain, but it's really cool to have a friend who doesn't mind listening to me and being there. He didn't say that lightly. He only wanted to let himself be there for you and everyone else. Being somebody Derek counted on was special. You wouldn't let him down. Then his eyebrows furrowed mischievously, and like that, he catapulted right off the tile edge into the pool. You gasped as if you were the one who suddenly plunged into underwater. Derek burst to the surface with a loud, gasping laugh. The water's great! How wonderful. You're way too impulsive sometimes. Are you okay? You broke out in laughter. You shook your head at Derek's spontaneous swim. Are you gonna get in trouble? Not too badly. Derek! Everything's gonna be good, Pascal. I'm not an adult. That was true. You pushed yourself right off the edge, right off the side of the pool after him. You carefully lowered yourself over the edge. You splashed Derek from the ground. You watched him enjoy the water, staying dry yourself. I'm about to keep myself dry. Maybe I was. Do I splash him? Maybe I'll interact. Before he could blink, you sprayed his already dripping face with another heaping servant of pool water. Ah! Oh, game on! He sent a wave over the edge of the pool and you scrambled away. He chuckled triumphantly. You might have the high ground, but I've got the resources. Laughter and sloshing water brought the once stagnant pool to life. You and Derek still had a place to yourself and made the absolute most of it. But eventually, Derek crawled up the stairs out of the pool. His bag of clothes poured out many waterfalls with every step he took on land. Derek looked especially tiny with his drenched jersey draped over his frame. You got to your feet and walked over to Derek, not wanting to have him make the trip alone in that state. You gave him a thumbs up. Then he carefully tipped his head to the side and tapped his hands against his ears to get the water out. Alright, time to face the music. Having to go home dampened Derek's mood far more than the water on his body. He could do anything here, in the wide open pool with you as his only companion. Going back to his family came with countless expectations and responsibilities, but it still had to be done. Yeah. You gave a small nod, ready yourself for whatever might happen when you arrived at the squatter's condo. Without another word, you collected your shoes and left the little oasis behind. Two of you walked side by side to hug each other's hands. It's just too much. We're not even married yet. When you made it to the front door, Derek used the key from the pocket to open it. He hadn't forgotten to bring it despite leaving under rush and uneasy circumstances. Derek stood there in front of the unlocked door just staring at it. Practical preparation was his forte, making himself ready for bumps in relationships. Was not. Okay. I got your back, Derek. We can do it. Yeah. Took a deep breath through his nose and turned the knob. The living room was quiet when you went inside. Jorge and Mrs. Suarez had moved over to the kitchen and were busy putting together a puzzle. Mrs. Suarez's shoulder blocked your view, so you couldn't see what the picture was supposed to be. Mrs. Suarez and Nicolas were nowhere in sight. You guessed they were still in the younger boy's bedroom. It was strange not having someone cheer and shout when Derek walked through the door. There was a feeling of absence. We're back. He announced himself with an absolute lack of enthusiasm. He might as well have been calling off bank numbers to an empty room. Mrs. Suarez lifted his head and turned to face the both of you. At the same time, he eagerly pushed his chair away from the counter. Thank you for coming home. The greeting he gave was so normal that it was weird. Considering how Derek had brought a bucket full of water absorbed into his clothes, Jorge offered a typical family greeting of his own, not taking his eyes off the puzzle. He was either focused or avoiding the awkwardness. Derek silently poked a bare big toe into the prickly entryway doormat. The mess Derek's foot was making was too much for the little mat to contain. Water leaked out from the edges. Derek's attempt to face his family was going equally smoothly. The bright pleasantries on Mr. Suarez's face softened into warmth. He followed through on the motion he started and got out of his chair. He crossed the living room and to stand with the two of you at the front door. My hard-working son is always in demand, Our family needs to learn how to share, especially Nicolas. The last part was said with a little chuckle. Derek didn't smile from the compliment, but he did start to blush. A new voice came from the hall. Mrs. Suarez stood there with her hands on her hips. Peeking out from behind the skirt of her dress was a distinct speckled of brown hair. Okay. Now that you're here, someone has something that he wants to say to his big brother. Her words got Jorge to actually turn away from the puzzle and watch the scene, but Nicolas remained hidden. Her encouragement wasn't enough. As always, he was waiting for Derek. You need to tell Derek that, though. He knew it far better than you. He shifted his weight on his feet and gave Nicolas an invitation. Then, what did you want to say? Nicolas darted from behind his mom with enough speed to flutter her dress. His tiny feet thundered over the floor until he came to an abrupt stop right in front of his favorite person. He had to lean his head all the way back to look into Derek's eyes. Derek looked down to meet his gaze. Nicolas resisted the urge to hug him and instead clutched at the collar of his own shirt. That's your room. From how much Nicolas struggled to explain his apology, it was obvious that he wasn't at a point where he understood why being together at all times wasn't a completely fantastic idea. All that had gone through was that he upset his brother, and that had in turn upset him. Nicolas bit his lip and moved his hands toward the bottom of his shirt instead of the top. The best he could come up with next was simply repeating himself. Derek's lips quirked just a bit as he patiently listened to his little brother. You should say sorry to him too. Pascal helped you a lot today too. Nicolas instantly twisted his head towards you and echoed the word. He was very serious. Sorry, Pascal. Thank you, Nicolas. No worries. I appreciate that you apologize. You smile at him. You had to look away out of shyness. Thank you, Nicolas. Nicolas hopped up on the pads of his feet as a nervous but hopeful energy came over him. Your reaction was the first positive sign he'd gotten. The smaller Suarez glanced between you and Derek unsurely. He let his shirt go and balled his hands into his fists. I'm sorry, Derek. I'm sorry, Pascal. Nicolas put everything he had into willing whatever problem he caused to be fixed and into people not feeling bad anymore. The emotional display of regret moved someone in the room to speak. Why are you apologizing, Jorge? You don't have nothing to apologize for. Derek snorted a laugh with the unexpectedness of the interjection. Oh, what did you even do? I don't know. The middle child looked down at the puzzle in front of him again, like, Jorge, no, you have nothing to apologize for. You thought the boy with the clip was a girl at first, but I was surprised to find out it was a boy. Yeah, I thought Nicolas was a boy. It was a girl at first, too. He murmured, just barely loud enough to hear from where you were standing. You and Pascal had to watch me today, too. Derek's hesitancy completely crumbled, and his usual familiar dynamic came back into full force. Aw, Jorge. You don't have to apologize for that. I like to have some time by myself with my friends, but I never want to stop having my little bros. Nicolas' massively wide eyes sparkled. For the first time since they were reunited, he carefully reached out to Derek and gripped his soaking wet jeans. Derek reached down to gently pat his baby brother's head as he did probably every day. Neither boy cared that this time the hand was damp. Instead, they both smiled at the other with an unwavering affection. No matter what fissions happened, it was inevitable that they would end that way because they loved their family equally and deeply. Another person took a turn to cut in as Mr. Swatter spoke up with vigor. Race? What? Derek chuckled at your confusion and switched his head pad into a full-on hair ruffle. Nicolas giggled excitedly along with his brother. Dad is asking us to play a video game, an old car racer he likes. Yes, and I will win it. Derek's dad cheerfully tacked that on. Oh wait, who said that? Oh. Yes, and I will win it. There we go. Derek's dad cheerfully tacked that on. It could be forgotten, clearly. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Jorge, excuse me. Jorge can be player 4. Mrs. Suarez was the only one who truly kept a distance during the reconciliation between Derek and Nicolas, but now she joined the rest of the family. When she was close enough to you and Derek to whisper, she pressed her hand to the corner of her mouth and winked conspiratorially. I'll give Nico an unplugged controller. Nicolas grinned at that point. Oh, that is funny. Grinned at that point and shifted into giving the longest strands of Nicolas's hair a friendly tug, but he didn't accept the invite immediately. He included you in the discussion. What do you think, Pascal? It's up to you. He nodded at you and turned to answer his father. All right, let's race. Derek's mom encouraged you and Derek with her words, and Nicolas with her hands, taking him by the shoulders. This time, she wouldn't be letting him get away from her. Get change. We'll plug it in so it's ready by the time you get back. Thanks, Mom. Derek's mood continued to be buoyed by the support of his parents, and he left to go get changed while walking as lightly as he could in his wet clothes. You didn't know where anything was, so you had to leave the prep work to Mr. Suarez and Jorge. The two of them got right into it, opening drawers and pulling out the cords. You found something to do by keeping Nicolas company with Mr. Suarez. He was on his best behavior and didn't whine with Derek even once. And, as promised, the Suarez's dark purple GameCube. GameCube? Ooh, GameCube. I never actually played a GameCube, actually. Well, might have been one time because someone else had it at their place. But I never had a GameCube. And I don't remember any real members of playing on GameCube. My first console was the Wii from Nintendo. Isn't the GameCube Nintendo as well, if I recall? GameCube was fully connected with 4 controllers plugged in by the time Derek strolled into the living room. A familiar shout filled the room. All was right in the world. I'm just like, he better not wear the same clothes again. Okay, he's wearing a different outfit. Yep, Nico, I'm here. Mrs. Suarez was on the carpet with Nicolas in her lap. She already passed him a controller. He was having a blast, pressing the clicker buttons, despite the fact that they did nothing except make a little noise. Jorge and Mr. Suarez took seats on the couch. Jorge tucked himself closely against his father, so the two of you were taken up one side. The other half of the couch was reserved for you and Derek. Derek dove into the spot next to Jorge. He got settled in nicely against the plush of the couch and folded his legs up across the cushion. You got the final place and relaxed You got in the final place and relaxed against the armrest. A, B, C, D. That's crazy. A, B, C, D. Were they actually like written like that? The actual GameCube controllers? I've only seen things like A, B, Y, X. Maybe a Z too, but not A, B, C, D. Jorge passed one controller to Derek, which Derek gave to you. Then he handed over a second, which Derek kept. Mr. Suarez filled you on a decision he and his second son had made. Junior and I are on a team. You and Pascal can play together. What do you think? Derek tilted his head your way. He lifted his shoulders and added on to his dad's briefing. It's a double racer. One drives, the other controls items. Sounds cool. I love that game. You smiled understandingly. This is going to be good. He shrugged acceptantly. Great. It's me and you then. The deal was sealed. Pacts had been made, and Jorge perked up and shook Mr. Suarez's arm. Hey, Dad, we're Team Suarez. Yes, we are. Derek's fingers were on the buttons, and he was leaning over his crossed legs in anticipation for the game to begin. He replied, unbothered. Cool for you guys. Team Whitlock is a force to be reckoned with. Team Whitlock. All 4 players making up the 2 teams chose their characters, carts, positions, and track set. To start, Derek and Mr. Suarez were driving. You and Jorge had item launching duty. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I was confused. The carts launched across the starting lines with both drivers getting extra boosts. Team Whitlock and Team Suarez were Team Whitlock and Team Suarez were off down the colorful jungle road. There would be 3 laps before the race was over. Lap 1 was a frantic race for the top spot. The carts were neck and neck to each other over every hill and around every curve, neither getting ahead or falling behind. Attacks were constantly exchanged and the buttons were pressed at rapid speeds. That included Nicolas as you watched the race and tried to use his controller the way everyone else was. You wonder which part of the game he thought he was impacted. By lap 2, Team Whitlock had taken a strong lead. Almost nothing from the Suarez camp could reach your car. Once he passed the line to start lap 3, Derek was cocky enough to bring out the smack talk. I thought you were going to win, Dad. Mr. Suarez's expression was perfectly content. More than that, it was serene. And it was with that calm face, Derek's father carefully reached across Jorge and the blink of an eye, locked his large hand around the comparatively tiny controller Derek held. Hey! Excuse me? That's cheating! You just cheated! You cheated! What the heck? The car you and Derek shared went out of control, careening off the dirt path into a pit. You had to wait for the game to fish you out and place you back on the road. Team Suarez rolled all right past. What? That's not fair. I'm winning now. Derek's dad was boldly unapologetic. He grinned like a child who just found out you could get a hole-in-one at a putt-putt golf if you just dropped the ball in the hole. You're cheating now. Derek sputtered with laughter and made an equal parts amusement and disbelief. I'd be upset. That is not funny to my face. That makes me angry. He yanked his arms towards his chest to fight for freedom, but Mr. Suarez's grip was unmovable. We're running interference, huh? From a distance, Mrs. Suarez mused over the situation that had begun to unfold. Her husband stole a look at where she was sitting. She was gone, leaving only Nicolas on the floor. Mr. Suarez lifted one thick eyebrow and pressed the other lower. He could only puzzle over what it might mean until it all became clear by the world going dark. But only him. Derek's mom had crawled over behind the couch, popped up from behind, and slipped her fingers under Mr. Suarez's glasses. Thank you, Mr. Suarez. He was caught completely off guard. His father started from the shock of a surprise attack that wasn't committed by himself. Yeah, Mom! Derek hadn't gotten his controller back. Mr. Suarez was stubbornly in his hold, but his dad was just as incapacitated as the driver. Yeah, Mom! As an echo of Derek's cheer came from behind, all the excitement in the air had stirred a fire in Nicolas. He wasn't just playing with an off controller anymore. He crawled on all fours at a rapid pace until he reached the couch and launched himself right in his dad's stomach. It was powerful enough that Mrs. Suarez sprung forward and Mrs. Suarez's hands were yanked off of him. Oof! But Derek's controller was finally freed. Mrs. Suarez had let go of both controllers to catch his squirming child. Nicolas would not be contained. He climbed up over his dad's shoulders and wrapped his arms around Mrs. Suarez's face. In sweet justice, the Team Suarez cop flew off a bridge into the abyss below. Yes, Nicolas! Jorge placed his own controller in his lap with a shake of his head and smirk. Team Suarez wasn't winning this race. Derek rolled his shoulders and poked a tongue out of the corner of his mouth in concentration. He was back in business. Team Whitlock course corrected and raced toward the finish line of the final lap. The youngest Suarez hugged all four of his limbs around his dad, even tighter than the thrill of seeing Derek speed his car around the track. Yeah! Items weren't needed now, but you were just as invested in watching your car make the last stretch. And Derek brought it home, crossing the finish line. We won! We won! Derek flew threw his fist into the air, pumped them back down to his chest, and turned to you with a palm held out for you to smack. You clapped his hand, you hugged him, you gave him a thumbs up. You used your hands to try to cover your face. High five. The clear sound of your high five was a proper victory note. We won! Nicolas sent his arms up toward the sky, perfect imitation of his eldest brother. Mr. Suarez used the opportunity to collect his son from off his shoulders and place Nicolas into his lap. He patted his son's hair and he laughed, breathless but full of joy. I lost. Next race. Next race. This time, Derek repeated the phrase, still raring to go. But that was naturally followed by the original copycat. Nicolas clapped gleefully and snuggled up against the seat of his father's chest. Next race! Jorge picked up his abandoned controller once more. His voice was quieter but no less sincere. Next race. In all the commotion, you completely forgotten you could have switched the driver role to take over for Derek at any time. Jorge could have too for his dad, but you were glad it went the way it did. Team Whitlock got its win with the assistance of team pile drivers, Nicolas and Mrs. Suarez, and the game was just getting started. Race next. Race next. I like that. You can help but breaking the pattern. It earned you some fresh laughter from the family. Well, now this is a real party. There's still pizza left in the fridge. Who wants leftovers? The suggestion of food riled Nicolas up even more. He clambered over his dad's shoulders for a second time and tugged onto his beard and accidentally knocking his glasses off. Mrs. Suarez wheezed out a chuckle. Nicolas stared out from over the couch into the kitchen. He wanted that pizza, but couldn't be the first to ask. I do. Jorge and Mr. Suarez chimed in their own requests. Can I have some, Mom? I would like some pizza, my beloved wife who never turns against me. She snickered with a glint in her eye. Of course. Start the game. I'll heat it up. All four of the Suarez men spoke in unison. Thanks, Mom. Thank you, too. The players all resumed their original positions and took up their tools, slightly sweated GameCube controllers. When the second race started, the grin on Derek's face was one of the most radiant you've seen the whole day. His dad, his mom, and brothers too really knew how to make Derek happy. That brought a smile to your face too. From getting a window into Derek's life, and from what you knew from your own, spending every day with the same people could take a lot of patience. But there were a lot of perks too. Your time at the Suarez household ended with family, food, and fun. There wasn't much more you could have asked for. Wow, that was a whole 2-hour long moment. I'm happy that we got a lot of new content, but I was not expecting to be that long. I thought we were gonna get through a lot more of these before we reached the 2-hour mark. But yeah, that was a lot of new content, a lot of new stuff to see into his daily life, to see into his life. I like that he got to be vulnerable with us, talk about his struggles being struggles with adultification and things like that. But I guess we'll have to see the rest of these later on, because I am, as y'all can probably hear from me, I'm getting a little tired. We've been 2 hours already, so I'm going to end the stream here. And we'll start with Lemonade next week. Let me save. I saved already? Yes. Menu. So yeah, tomorrow we should play Danganronpa Moth again, and that will be it for this week. So yeah, thank y'all very kindly for coming. Much obliged as always, and I will see y'all next time. Y'all come back now, you heard me?